Men in general, black men in particular. Do you understand what it takes for a black man to find himself enthusiastic and ambitious every single solitary day for you? Let's talk about solitary day for you.
Good evening, folks. Good evening, folks. Happy to be on the stream tonight. Thank you all for getting on the stream. Those of you that catch the stream live now as we stream live, those of you that catch it after we're no longer streaming. Again, I want to thank you for getting on the stream tonight. I trust that everyone has had a fantastic afternoon. I mean, it was a beautiful day today. I mean, it got up to about 80 degrees. That's refreshing, being that we come from cold weather, you know, so it's nice to see it happening. So that being said, you see the title, So You Want to Be a Wife. I will tell you up front before I even really go any further, ladies, don't get yourself triggered. This is not going to be one of those streams that you expect from these kind of talking points that you hear so often men having. It's not going to be one of those kind of streams. It's going to be something really different. I want you to hang out with me. I want you to watch and listen with an open mind to understand, not simply to just hear. I'm going to touch on some things tonight that are not often said, certainly that are not often expressed, and what most don't really truly understand at its depth. But I want to bring some clarity to what many men are saying in this space. And I also want to bring clarity to what many men misunderstand about what they say and about what we see as it relates to women who share our reflection, and more importantly to what we see as a whole as it relates to community. I don't have to express it to you. I'm certain that most of you know as well as I do that we are in trouble. We are in serious trouble as it relates to a community. And it hasn't become this way for no reason at all. So again, the title is So You Want to Be a Wife. I should have added to the title, and you want a wife, and men want a wife. But do you qualify? So let's get right into it. When we start diving into the subject of wives, or a man wanting a wife, and many of you that have watched my streams in times past, you've heard me say that looking for a wife is about as hard as trying to find a needle in a field of haystacks. Well, and that's true, especially today with this modern culture and with this modern mindset and the narrative that's spun, which in large part keeps us separated, male and female in general, black men and women in particular. We are separated. And it's not enough to just point out what women do and how women behave and how women carry themselves and how women dress and how women talk, which you've heard me express many times in videos in times past. But with all growth, we come to know and we come into knowledge which should be elevating us. We should be getting better with time and not simply staying stagnated. Truth be told, I've never been truly comfortable with simply pointing out what women do. No, although those things need to be pointed out. Because men in this space who have these talking points, irregardless of how you like the way they say it, or you don't like the tone, or that's not as important as the diagnosis. What do I mean by that? If the problem didn't exist, would we have anything to say? No. But where I think the imbalance takes place at is that we don't balance off the scales, where we have fallen short as men, which in turn gives way to our women, black women in particular, to act and behave the way that they do. I think we need to start digging deeper beyond the surface of what we see in our own community where our women are concerned. We have to dig deeper if we intend to get real results. Now, I will say to you guys that hear my stream, first of all, let me say from the beginning, I'm not pandering to women, although many of you may misunderstand and think that that's what I'm doing. And I really don't care if that's what you think, because I know that you'll probably be one of those who won't be listening to understand. And some of you may say, well, he's simping with what he's saying, and I don't expect you to listen either to understand. Because while we say that men are acting feminine or effeminate, I will tell you, whenever we as men refuse information and refuse knowledge, if it doesn't coincide with what we agree with, in particular as it relates to women in general and black women in particular, if it goes against what we personally believe as it relates to these talking points that have become extremely popular in these spaces on social media, titled in some senses as the manosphere, in some senses that's titled as the red pill community, I personally do not subscribe to either, nor have I ever said that I subscribe to either. I simply see a problem in my community that transcends my own personal community and now has spilled over into all 50 plus states and extended not only 50 plus states, but is now spilled over into all over the world where women that share our reflection reside. This conversation must be had, but understand this, not only must it be had, there also has to be balance. We have to get beyond the conversation being one-sided. It's comfortable for women to hear what they want to hear if it doesn't allow them to be held accountable. And I believe equally, men have become comfortable with hearing conversations as it relates to women, as long as the conversation doesn't hold us accountable. Now, come on. Only the mature and only those that wish to listen to understand will be able to tolerate this message tonight. I am your host. I thank you for getting on another stream of Let's Talk About It Now, where we intend to talk about it. And every conversation won't be comfortable. Nah. For you ladies, we already know the conversations won't always be comfortable. But what I want to say to the men who share my reflection in particular, what I want to say to you, that tonight this conversation won't be comfortable, brothers. No, it won't be comfortable. But as I speak to you, I want you to envision my finger pointing out like this, but my thumb pointing back at myself, because all of us who are men in general, black men in particular, we have to take accountable also when we say there are no wives. And it's for you ladies. So you want to be wives. This is what you say you want. This is what you say you want. You want to be wives, for those of you that wish to be married. Now, I know some of you don't wish to be married. You would rather just not have anyone tell you what to do or be held accountable to any man. I understand. That's your choice. But every choice comes with trade-offs. And since 85% of all women in this country file for divorce even after they find themselves someone's wife, it indicates that there is a problem bigger than just your desire to be married. And men, it also indicates something deeper than you just wanting a wife. We both have to qualify. The problem is, the deep-seated problem is, that we have never been told what it takes to qualify. Men have not been told in general. Black men in particular have not been told what it takes to qualify to be someone's husband. And ladies, women in general, black women in particular, you know, in our community, you have not been told what it takes for you to become someone's wife. Instead, you've been told just the opposite. The whole concept and idea of getting married today, with women in general, black women in particular, is simply been reduced to an idea. An idea that sounds good. An idea that at the time of the getting married even feels good. The euphoria and all the congratulations and the accolades and the family members coming together and everyone's smiling and happy and everyone's having a great time. And then right after the marriage, then there's a honeymoon. And before the honey can get over the moon, the marriage is in trouble. Shortly thereafter, life begins to hit you. Life that didn't exist prior to the marriage. Now you have bills, and now you have children, and that day-to-day hustle and bustle of providing for your family, where the man is concerned. And the woman, in addition, if she's a good woman, she's helping her husband financially, and they're both combining two incomes to take care of that family. Oh, it looks so good in the beginning. You know, the sun is shining in terms of climatic conditions of a marriage. We forget that every marriage has 4 seasons. You have a summer, winter, spring, and a fall. And in most cases, we usually dissolve the marriage around fall. No pun intended that it's called fall. That's usually when the marriage falls apart. But what I want to touch on tonight is something deeper than most of these talking points even dare to venture into. And I pray that by the end of this stream tonight, that those of you that listen to these conversations and talking points which are had all over social media, where women are concerned, where relationships are concerned, devoid of giving and making men accountable for where we fall short and have not only participated in the problem, but in large part, we've created the problem that we see every day right now. So let's get right into it. Again, I hope and pray that everyone has had a fantastic afternoon today. I don't know where you are in the United States, but where I am, it was about 80 degrees. We had a beautiful day today. I mean, man, you know. And what I'd like to see us have going forward into the future, where we are concerned as a community, is that we have beautiful days going forward, because we are so fragmented. We have our community is all but disintegrated. Again, there is no such thing as a community where you don't find man, woman, children. I don't mean simply broken homes where there's a man, a woman, and a child that exist. I'm talking about men who are husbands, women who are wives, and children who grow up in a productive home where they can look 2 parents in the face and know that both of those parents are there and they are supported in a healthy, productive environment. This is what I'm talking about. I will tell you, as I said earlier, what we need to know, ladies, what you need to know is what it means for you to be someone's wife. And the sooner you know it, I think the faster the numbers will begin to increase as it relates to our relationships and our marriages, percentages wise, in our community, right? So what is a wife? Well, a wife is someone that's found. Let's just start right there. For those of you that are in church and believe in the scriptures, which I do, This again is not a religious conversation tonight, but I will touch on the necessary points of scripture that read or that speak to the situations that we experience in our communities. Again, as I said, a wife is found. Where is she found? And who is she found by? She's found by a man who is husband material. And brothers, I'm going to get to you in a few as it relates to what a husband is. Not simply you desiring to be married and have a wife. But ladies, what is a wife if you're found? In the scripture it says, he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and then obtains favor from the Lord. How is it that he obtains favor from the Lord? Why does a man obtain favor from God if he finds you and you're a wife? Have you ever given thought to why it reads like that? And have you ever given thought to the fact that you're found? Which means you already existed as a wife. You already existed as a wife. I want to read a few things to you to describe what a wife is in scripture. I won't go deep. I won't go long with it, but I want you to get a few points that you'll be able to refer to on your own after the stream ends. Because all too often, many of us, we say we believe in the Bible. And we even tell people, I goes by my Bible. What I think the problem is that we go by it so much, we never open it. So we don't know what's in it. And we don't know how those precious verses and chapters can actually help guide us and keep us from many of pitfalls that we've found ourselves falling into. So I'm going to go over a few with you. Just a few points. This comes out of Proverbs 31. And for those of you that have been in church, like I have all my life, you familiar with Proverbs. You familiar with Proverbs 31. Proverbs 31 talks about the virtuous woman. It talks about a lot of things that, hold on one second. Let me pull that up. I want to get that for you. Hold on one second. Let me get that, because I believe that if we're going to have a conversation about anything, I believe we have to be able to, make our information known, make what we're talking about relevant. Just give me 1 second. Let me pull that up. So hold on 1 second. All right. Okay, I'm going to read this to you. This is coming from, again, Proverbs 31. I'm going to read it out of the a version that's kind of a little clearer for you to understand it, okay? I'm going to read this out of the NIV, okay? So here we go. It talks about the virtuous woman, a wife of noble character. Now I want you to just listen to this. It says, it starts out in verse 10, again of Proverbs 31. It says, a wife of noble character. Who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband is full of confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all of the days of her life. And we know that's not the case today. She selects wool and flax and works with her eager hands, meaning she's not lazy, right? She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still yet night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. I want to go down a little further and grab the verse that I think stands out very, very well. Her husband is respected at the city gate. When he takes his seat among the elders of the land, she makes linen garments and sells them and supplies merchants and sashes. She's clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom. She watches over the affairs of her household. and does not eat the bread of idleness, meaning she's not sitting around just doing nothing, gossiping, talking about he say, she say, that sort of thing, which we see so often today. She's not that kind of woman. This is descriptive of a wife. All right? This is what's descriptive of a wife. Now, why I wanted to highlight that and why is that important? I wanted to highlight that because that's so important, because we don't see those values today. I think one of the things that stood out is that she speaks with wisdom. She speaks with wisdom. It also says in the scripture that if she is to learn, she's to learn from her husband at home. That means her husband has something of wisdom to teach. This is where we as men fall short in a lot of ways, a lot of times, in this way. Because a lot of times we can talk about a woman wanting a woman to submit to us, but you have to give her something to submit to. If you have nothing to say, if you have nothing in your head to teach her, if you don't have the ability to guide her, to lead her, then what is she submitting to? I mean, let's just be real. What is she submitting to? She's not going to submit just for the sake of submitting, simply because we said so. There has to be a reason bigger than herself that makes you easy for her to submit to. Now, ladies, I know you don't like that word, but I want to give you some clarity about what that word means, okay? I want to give you some clarity about what that word means. First of all, what is submit? By definition, it means accept or yield to a superior force or to the authority or will of another person. I know a lot of you ladies don't like that. And you know why you don't like it? It's because the narrative. You've been given the negative connotation of the word, and you've never known the positive denotation of the word. Because to submit to anything, this means you yielded yourself to what you had respect for. When you go to your job, you respect your employer. That's why you submit to what he or she is requiring of you to keep that job. You go to college, you submit to your professor. Why? You're only submitting to what you feel you need to respect, but you submit. And then you come to your man and you refuse to submit, which at that point, if he's husband material, will disqualify you. And I will tell you, the reason why I believe personally, I'm coming to learn this as I grow and as I hope you are growing, is that the reason why we can say there are no wives is because there are no husbands. Because if there were wives, a man who's husband material would identify her. She'd stick out to you, not because of what she's wearing, not because how shapely she is, not because of how her hair is, not because of how much makeup she has on, not because of the perfume she's wearing, not because of how high her heels are. That is not what would stick out to you. Because a woman who's truly wife material, she's going to carry herself in such a way that's going to make her stand out, and she won't look like everybody else. That's the difference. When she opens her mouth, it won't sound like everybody else. She'll have a quietness of spirit. She won't be boisterous. She won't be loud. She won't be gossiping. She won't have friends or associates who reflect that same behavior that she's not. She'll put herself in the company of women who are just like her. Why? Because the others won't even be attracted. She'll repel those kind of women. But women who are wife material attract each other. It goes back into what I said in earlier streams. I said we don't get what we want, we get who we are. Irregardless of what we want, we will only get who we are, because you attract who you are. Whatever stage in life you're in, regardless of what stage in life you're in, you will attract according to that stage. You may change going forward into the future, but wherever you are, you will attract only what you are. So what do we see? We see a lot of ladies, a lot of women out here that are single parents. We see a lot of women out here who are just having all kinds of relationships sexually, and producing children all over the country and everywhere else outside of the country. And yet, the evidence is clear that a man was present. But where is he? Where is he? Ladies, since you're the gatekeepers to your body, I've said it over and over and over, and I'm certain you've heard it before, that you control access to your body and childbirth. That's what you control. But a man controls whether you're in a relationship or whether you become married. You don't marry men. Men marry you. And where's the problem in that dynamic? Why are ladies the way they are, guys? Which many of us complain about, and I've complained many times, although I have a wonderful wife that I've been married to for 30 years. I'm not talking about my wife when I diagnose this problem. I'm talking about what I see and what I've observed, and in earlier years, what I've experienced. This is what I talk about. But why are women the way they are, and why are men complaining so much? I'll tell you why. It's because men are not on point. That's why. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. Shout out to Ringo TV Reactions. He mentioned something that I heard him say in a stream he did earlier today, which stands out. And I had not quite given it that much thought, but it makes so much sense. Go-go bars are full of who? Men. Right? The porn industry is made a $1 trillion industry or $1 billion industry for the most part because of who? Men. Prostitution in any respected communities anywhere in the country and outside of the country is made successful. And they call it the oldest profession in the world. But it's made successful by who? Men. Right? All of the single parent homes that we see in our communities, in the black community in particular, are made this way by who? Men. Why am I saying that, guys? Because I know many of you don't want to hear this. But why am I saying that? I'm saying that because where there are no decent men, listen to me, where there are no decent men, there will be no decent women. But if men got their stuff together, if we came up, if we were responsible in our communities, if we were providing for our families at the best way we can, if we were good fathers to our children, if we didn't walk away from responsibility, if we were all of what it takes that would identify us as husband material, listen, then the women would have to come up to speed because there would be no men for them to choose from except the men who were husband material. They would have to get their stuff together as well. If all they had to choose from was good, respectable, honorable men who were husband material, God-fearing men, they would have to come up to speed. Does that make sense? They would have to come up to speed. They would have no choice. Likewise, ladies, this is our dilemma also where you're concerned. Because the husband material men that are out there, though may be small in number, because most of us, truth be told, and I'm going to keep it 1,000 with you, when we see you, we want to have sex. We're not thinking about no wife, no. We're not thinking about taking care of you or any of that. Most of us We just want to have sex. That's the truth of it all. So are men husband material today? Men in general, black men in particular? Absolutely not. To find a genuine black man who's absolutely husband material, meaning he yearns for the idea of not just having a wife, but loving her and building a family and a community with her, is so far few and in between. It's also like finding a needle in a field of haystacks. That's the truth of it. I know you don't want to hear that, brothers. But we have to get beyond being able to absorb and be entertained and enjoy a conversation that speaks to the dysfunction, bad behavior, attitudes, and bad outcomes that black women in particular have to deal with where we are concerned, and then throw all the mud on top of them without us as men taking any responsibility at all. We have to stop that, man. And me personally, I've done a bunch of streams where that's all I did. My streams going forward will be balanced. It will be balanced. Absolutely be balanced. In times past, men were wicked as hell as it related to women. Why? Biblically, they would marry a woman and just put her away for no particular reason. I didn't like the way she cooked. I didn't like how she dressed. I didn't like what she said. Just put her away. And because during that time, women were solely dependent on men, they had no income of their own to sustain themselves or to provide for themselves. When a man put her away, i.e. divorced her, biblically, she fell into whoredom. What do I mean? She fell into prostitution. That's what happened to her. So ladies, and again, shout out to Ringo TV Reactions who brought this out also. And it makes sense, man. He said, and I agree with him, you being independent today, ladies, with the ability to provide for yourself by way of purchasing a home or going to college or driving a fine car and wearing fine clothing and, being able to provide for yourself in such a way that in a lot of cases exceeds the income of the modern man in general and black men in particular, that you now can really boast today arrogantly that you don't need a man. But what you don't realize is what you're able to do for yourself is the blessing that came from God because of how women were treated in times past. But there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance. Don't allow yourself to become arrogant. Don't allow yourself to become boastful. Don't allow yourself to take on this attitude that you're so independent now because of your ability to provide that you don't need a man. The same men that built the infrastructure that you find yourself every day enjoying. The whole world is made safe and is protected by men. Everything you have, the home you live in, the car you drive was not only manufactured by men, but the home you live in was built by men, and the roads that you drive on are maintained by men. The street lights that light up your street, the power grids are maintained by men. The water you drink coming out of your faucet, the filtration system at the water companies in your respective states are maintained and monitored by men. At the most part. Are there women that work in these facilities? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Are there women that work in these areas of in the industry that I named? Absolutely. But for the most part, the majority of the hard work is what I'm trying to say. The hard work, ladies, it's done at the hands of men. So yeah, you do need us. And I'll tell you something. What many of us don't say to you, we need you. Oh yeah, we do. Oh yes, we do. You know why we need you? We need you if we intend to build legacy. There is no legacy for a man without you. That's what makes it so important for us as men to get ourselves together and get to a place where we can see women in a respectful way, as opposed to pointing out what they're doing wrong. Now, do we need to continue pointing it out? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a necessary conversation that you hear men having. Make no mistake about it. It's a necessary conversation. Because, for, like I said in other streams, for over 50 years, men and their bad behavior has been pointed out by women, and we sat there and took that abuse and took that beat down. We had to take it, and we had to either step up or fall out. That's all we had. The only two choices. But most of you ladies who did it, you got no pushback. Movies were made about us and our negative behavior. The Color Purple, bad behavior, bad husband, abusive man, you know, and many other movies and songs, rap songs, R&B songs were made descriptive of the bad behavior, attitudes of men, black men in particular. And we heard it. Ladies, we heard you. We heard you, and many of us changed as a result of hearing you. And many of us decided to simply dislike you altogether. So you have some of us out there that point out your bad behavior, but we point it out to beat you with it. We really don't want to see a better situation in our community. And guys that are listening to my stream, you know I'm correct. I've talked to many men that have these same talking points, and all I can hear in their voice is hatred, anger, to the degree that they've basically decided to look at women in general, black men and black women in particular, as objects of sex. And that's it. Not a serious creature that they should take serious. I understand, but we have to do better than that. We have to do better than that. All of us who are men, we couldn't get here unless we came through a woman. We had to come through a woman who is your mother, my mother. And we had to come by way of a man who is our father. Whatever bad situations we had to grow up in, which may have made us unhappy, upset, or sad about how we grew up as a result of our home being broken up and fragmented into pieces. Understand, it would make sense that you would want to see something better today than how you grew up, how I grew up, how we grow up. You would think you'd want to see something better. Would I be correct? And ladies, for those of you that came up in a home with no father, and you're suffering today with daddy issues, and you've made some bad mistakes and made some bad decisions as a result, you are now bitter with men. And you have now made up your mind that men are nothing but dogs, or you can't trust a man, and all they want is sex. And, well, you wouldn't be incorrect, and I understand. But where does this stop? Where does this conversation stop? Because I'll tell you, although we're diagnosing the problem by having the conversations in what's quote unquote characterized as the manosphere, and what's quote unquote characterized as the red pill community, of which I am not a member of either at all. I'm just a brother who wants to see better outcomes for both of us. And what I intend to do with this stream is my introduction to you brothers and to you ladies, that going forward, my streams will be balanced. I will discuss the problem as I've always discussed it. I will deal with the issues as I've always dealt with it, but I'll also work hard and diligently to provide some solutions. I don't believe the solutions are available in the public. Nah, I don't believe the solutions are available with the narrative. I don't believe society is ever going to give a solution to families in general, black families in particular. No, there's too much money to be made by keeping us all separated, black men and women in particular. Too much money to be made. Too much money to lose by us killing this and destroying this supposed gender war, where women are over here talking about how bad men are, and black men in particular, and men are over here talking about how bad women are on this side, black men in particular. All that nonsense at some point has to stop, but it won't stop until the conditions stop, until the problem is no longer relevant, no longer visible, to where we can stop diagnosing a problem that doesn't exist. That makes sense, right? How can you diagnose something, a problem, if the problem doesn't even exist any longer? I don't know that I'll see that in my lifetime. I don't know that I'll see it. But what I do believe, and what has kept me having these conversations and leaning on these talking points, has been this. I believe as long as we talk about how dirty it is, how bad it is, how dysfunctional it is, where our women are concerned, black women in particular, how dysfunctional and whoremongering our men are, black men in particular, how unfocused, undisciplined we are as a community, how unwilling to love one another we are as a community, and how broken and how hurt and how so in need of therapy and how critical mental illness is amongst both of us, black men and black women, which keeps us unable to come together in a healthy, productive way. I don't know that I'll see in my lifetime that diagnosis healed. I don't know that I'll see it. But the conversation has to be had, because someone, somewhere down the road in the future will run across all of these conversations, and somebody's going to spark the mind and the attitude that'll make the difference. In the same way the attitude, the mind, the narrative has spilled into the population all over the United States, where women are concerned and where our men are concerned, black men in particular, and now spilled over into other countries. I believe the same way the narrative that we find today that has separated us as a people, male and female, and has created this supposed gender war. I believe with these conversations, it'll spark the mind the same way to reverse the problems that we see. Maybe the next generation will see it. Or maybe the next generation, next 2 generations will see it. I don't know. I don't know that I'll see it in my lifetime, though. I believe this generation will have to suffer a lot of pain before that reality takes place. So you want to be a wife. And with that, so you want to be someone's husband. Well, that's never going to happen until we change how we think, change how we behave, start leaning on a book that serves as a manual for life, irregardless of what your faith is. Because there are whoremonger males that are Muslim. You need to start leaning on your Quran, because the solutions are there as it relates to these talking points. I don't care if you're a Christian. If you're a Christian, your Bible has the solutions to the talking points that we have right now. Whatever your faith persuasion is, your book, there is something in it that will speak to the problems that have caused these talking points. Make no mistake about it. And because most of the population, most of us who have these books and claim these faith persuasions, we don't follow it. We don't follow it. We don't follow it at all. That's why we're still running around lost like we have blindfolds on. That's why. That's why we don't follow it. But the solutions are there. And what I intend to do going forward is with every talking point, I intend to incorporate a few of those solutions coming from that book, the book that I believe in. You go into your book for your faith persuasion and you find the same solution. I thank you for getting on the stream tonight. I am your host, Charles Chambliss. This has been another stream of Let's Talk About It Now. And that being said, folks, have a great night. God bless, grace and peace, and have a wonderful day tomorrow.